Before we get started in the Dharma talk, please join me in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. So we've been covering the Eightfold Path, and we are on the last factor of that path. So we are at the 8th factor of the Eightfold Path, right concentration, Samyak Samadhi. And I think I'll get through the whole thing in one session. So we'll find out. But anyway, right concentration, which is essentially meditation on this path, which is my favorite factor of the Eightfold Path, mostly because meditation is my specialty of some sort, I guess. But in the Eightfold Path, at least, right concentration is the cultivation to bring the mind into one-pointedness. And in the teachings of the 8th factor, at least in the meditation practice of this factor, it's grouped in 2 kinds, pretty much, right? Active meditation and selective meditation. So in active concentration, or active meditation, the mind pretty much dwells in whatever is happening in the present moment. So whatever arises, the mind shifts to that object to allow that object to be the object of meditation. And so pretty much whatever arises, whatever comes up, whatever you hear, smell, taste, or feel, we're shifting our mind to that object. And so instead of just focusing on the one thing, like in selective concentration, and active concentration, you start out with your breath or any other object of meditation. And as the door opens, right, you hear the sound of the door, you just make that mental notation that the door had opened, or you hear the sound, and you focus on it until that object pretty much goes away. So essentially until the sound stops, right? And so whether it's a long sound, maybe you hear dogs barking, or maybe some construction outside, or whatever it may be, for the entire duration of whatever that object is how long you stay concentrated on it, right? Until it stops, and then you shift back to your breath, right? And then something else arises, again, you shift it to that object until it disappears, and then you move back. So it's really a going back and forth with different objects. And then you have selective concentration, or selective meditation, and that's pretty much that, right? It's selecting a specific object in meditation and sticking to it for the entire duration of the meditation session, right? And so in most cases, it's our breath, or maybe it's a mantra, or any other method or technique of meditation you're using, but it's sticking to just that one object for the entire duration, right? We'll still have objects or thoughts or distractions that arise in the background, but and we still label them, but we're not focusing on them for the duration of its object, or for the duration that it lasts, right? And so we're not sticking to the entire sound from beginning to end. We're simply just making the notation of the sound or the smell or whatever it is, and we immediately go back to our object of meditation. And staying with it for the entire duration, right? And so both are similar for the most part, but they have different functions, essentially. for the most part, when we first sit in meditation, typically for the first few minutes, the mind is kind of on default on active concentration, right? Because as the mind and body settles, your body's still shifting, you're still adjusting your posture, you're still trying to balance out your breath, you're trying to kind of getting in the zone, and so we're paying a little bit more attention to sounds and smells and all these other things around us. And then after a few minutes, once everything kind of settles, then the mind kind of shifts into the selective concentration. So usually, for the most part, it kind of happens naturally. But typically, those are the kind of two main stages of the concentration. And then once we settle, right, or once the mind starts to settle, and that kind of the excitation of the first few minutes of sitting in our session starts to subdue or subsides, the mind starts to settle into the practice, and that's where typically the 5 hindrances are most likely to arise, right? The 5 hindrances are pretty much just that, right? The hindrances or the objects that hinder our meditation, that don't allow our meditation, or pretty much distracts our meditation, right? And these 5 hindrances, as we know, are sensual desire, ill will, restlessness, sloth and torpor, and doubt, right? So anything that arises in meditation, any distraction, any kind of feeling or emotion or whatever it may be that arises, can typically be categorized and placed in one of these 5 hindrance buckets, right? But everything that arises is typically one of those 5 hindrances. And then to kind of get over those, or to conquer those hindrances, right, we have to be skillful in our meditation, and we have to know exactly what kind of meditation will help alleviate that specific hindrance or hindrances that arise. And so there are some specific meditations that we can use to help subdue some of those hindrances. So for instance, like ill will, right? Or which is ill will, anger, hatred, etc. The meditation to counteract that is metta meditation, loving kindness meditation, right? And so there's some specific meditation we can do to counteract some of those hindrances if the hindrance that arises is pretty dominant, right? If it's really dominating your meditation, it's really becoming a struggle because of that specific hindrance, then we can use a antidote meditation practice or method to kind of counteract it and try to subdue that hindrance. But otherwise, as we start to develop our meditation, as we start to really strive on our meditation, the hindrances start to lessen, and what kind of comes in its place is what we call the 5 mental factors, right? Or the 5 jhana factors. And those also can become antidotes to the 5 hindrances, right? So instead of, if the hindrances that arise are just kind of things that arise during the meditation on its own, the 5 factors can counteract it. The only time we would really want to use a whole different kind of meditation method or technique is if the hindrance is, again, pretty dominant, very strong, right? So if you're feeling extra angry, right, use a meditation that's counteracting it. Or if you're feeling really restless, then use a different method to counteract that. But otherwise, for the most part, the hindrances come and go in different times, in little bursts, right? And as we become more aware of them and more mindful of those hindrances that arise and are able to be aware of them and label them, right? Because the mind is really just trying to get your attention in moments when we're trying to concentrate on something. And so as soon as a distraction arises and you become aware of it, then the mind's like, all right, you caught me. And that distraction will naturally just go away on its own, right? It's not like you have to physically push it out or do anything to fight it, right? The mere acknowledgement of it is typically enough power to drive it away. And then as our meditation progresses and we become more concentrated, right? These 5 factors start to arise more fully. Now, these factors are typically always there, right? We always have them, and they kind of arise in bits and pieces, but they're really only present in meditation when we are essentially fully aware of them, right? And so as they start to become activated during meditation, the five jhana factors or the 5 factors start to kind of pick up power, right? They start to really link up and sync together, and they start to steer the mind toward samadhi, right? Toward one pointedness concentration. And these factors they're called factors of absorption. And they are, and these 5 factors are initial application of mind, sustained application of mind, rapture, or what's another word for rapture? Sometimes called joy, right? Happiness, or also joy, and one-pointedness. So initial application of mind, sustained application of mind, rapture, happiness, and one-pointedness, concentration. And the initial application of mind is essentially just that, right? It's initially directing the mind to your object of meditation. So when we first sit to meditate and we start to, we take a few deep breaths and we're really trying to get in balance and get in sync. This is that. This is initial application of mind. This is where we sit and we direct our mind to our object of meditation. Second factor is sustained application of mind. And this is where we're really just trying to anchor our object of meditation and sustain our focus on that object of meditation. And then once that sustaining gets stronger and more and held on for longer, then this turns into the third factor of rapture, or piti. And rapture here is a kind of delight and joy that arises from a favorable interest of that object of meditation. So sometimes it feels physical, right? Where somewhere in your body there's this really joyful sensation, right? Almost like a tingling. Sometimes, right? Depending on you, right? It's a very unique personal experience. But it can also be dependent on the type of meditation that you are doing, right? And so if you're doing, a lot of people that practice loving kindness meditation, right? This piti, this joy that arises, is kind of felt somewhere in the chest area, right? For me, for example, it almost always starts in my hands, right? Where the hands start to feel really light, really tingly, really just almost non-existent, like it's floating sometimes. And so sometimes it's a physical sensation that arises. And from there, once that rapture or that joy becomes sustained even longer, and if we're sitting for a long enough period of time, this rapture turns into happiness or bliss, sukha, right? And this shifts from a physical sensation to like a mental sensation. So now your mind is really calm. Now your mind's really joyful. Your mind is able to sustain and maintain that object of meditation for a much longer period of time. And you're really feeling that, just that, I don't know how to describe it sometimes, but it's just that comfort with that object of meditation. There's a an imagery here of describing happiness or rapture or happiness, where it's illustrated, because there's a difference between the two, right? But it's illustrated by comparing rapture to the joy of a weary desert farer who sees an oasis in the distance, and happiness is his pleasure when drinking from that pond and resting in the shade. And then that shifts, we'll move to the fifth factor of absorption, which is one-pointedness, ikagata. And this is essentially where we're unifying the mind on the object of meditation, where your full focus is on this object of meditation with little to no distraction, right? And then when concentration is fully developed and these factors kind of spring up, they are able to counteract the five hindrances. So like I said earlier, the five hindrances can definitely be the antidotes to the five jhana factors are the antidotes to the five hindrances. And so initial application of mind, because it works through kind of lifting the mind up into the object of meditation, counteracts dullness and drowsiness, or sloth and torpor. Sustained application, since it's supposed to anchor the mind to your object of meditation, this will drive away doubt, right, the fifth hindrance. Rapture will shut out ill will. Happiness excludes restlessness and worry. And one-pointedness counters sensual desire, the first hindrance. And then once we kind of continue with our practice and these hindrances start to become overpowered by these jhana factors, when the five absorption factors have suppressed those hindrances, the mind enters this concentrated stage of access concentration, of upacara samadhi. And it's here, this access concentration is where the mind is drawing close to absorption, right? Absorption means, absorption here is referring to jhana. Jhana is a deep, what's the word I'm looking for? State of concentration, deep state of consciousness, right? It's an advanced thing of meditation, but it's called absorption because you're fully absorbed in your object of meditation, where at this point, no distraction can actually distract you, right? You can be sitting in the middle of a war zone and really not even know that you're in the middle of a war zone, right? You don't hear the chaos behind you because you're fully absorbed in your object of meditation. Just pretty much, it's you're in a stasis almost, right? You're in a coma, maybe. But that first jhana, there's 8 levels of jhana, traditionally. And which is, I won't get into too much because these are not stages that are easily accessible to most people, nor will they bring much true benefit to your practice, right? Because the jhanas are really just a perfected state of concentration, right? Perfected way of meditation, but it's not entirely necessary for the practice, right? Because since it only helps develop and perfect concentration, right? Concentration on its own won't do much to our practice. And there's no attainments really that come from jhana, from any jhana stages, right? There's no, you don't become enlightened out of it. It's really just to help perfect meditation. And so since no enlightenment can come out of it, or no true realization can come out of it, it's not typically studied or taught to lay practitioners. The only form of meditation that we can become enlightened out of or have any true insight or realization is through contemplation meditation or insight meditation. But for the factor of the Eightfold Path, for the right concentration, it's specifically teaching the jhanas, not as a necessity, but as another form of the path, right? Because on its own, it cannot bring you enlightenment. It's the accumulation of all the Eightfold Path together, working together to allow one to become enlightened. So anyway, and as we practice more and develop and kind of start to not necessarily perfect our meditation, but to get it to a point of strong enough, we want to bring the mind to this kind of absorption state, right? This apana samadhi state. Because in access concentration, the jhana factors, right, of initial sustained concentration, joy, happiness, and one-pointedness, they're all still there, right? But now they start to, they're still there, but they lack strength, right? Because we're in access concentration, you have all these factors present, but they're not strong enough to actually push us into a jhana state, right? And so it's in this state, if one wants to attain jhana, right, then this is where in access concentration is where we start to really push toward developing and strengthening those factors. And once those factors are strengthened and strong enough, then that pushes us into the first jhana, first level of jhana, first stage of jhana. And the jhana, like I said, there are 8 of them, and the first 4 are considered the form jhanas, and then the last 4 are the formless jhanas. Yeah. So once we're in access concentration, to me, this is the best place to be for meditation. And so when we practice our meditation and when we're trying to really develop our meditation, my goal for everyone, or my goal for you when I'm teaching meditation, is to get to that access concentration mindset. Because that's truly where real meditation begins, right? Because until we're there, our meditation is really just in the first stages of meditation, right? You're stuck in sustained concentration. We're able to hold on to your object of meditation maybe for a few seconds, a few minutes before a distraction comes and pushes it out of the way, and then you have to remind yourself to go back. So it's a constant battle between you and all these distractions that arise, and continuously going back and forth between your object of meditation and all these distractions, which is perfectly fine, right? Because like I've always said, meditation isn't just to sit and to clear your mind and think of nothing, right? That's not the point of meditation. Because if you're just sitting there and not thinking or not doing anything, then what's the point, right? The point of meditation is to be able to sit with your object in meditation and be aware of whatever happens, whatever arises. And so if a distraction arises, you know a distraction has arose, right? You know that a distraction has come and has taken you away from your object of meditation. You acknowledge it and you go back to your meditation. right? So it's not about not thinking, but it's about knowing that you're thinking, right? It's okay to think, right? That's literally the only function of the mind is to think, right? So we can't stop that from happening, obviously, right? If you are, then, well, hell, you're the master of your mind. Unfortunately, we're not the master of our minds yet. We're not the masters of anything, right? If you were the master of your mind, if you were able to really control your mind, then you'd be able to stop your thinking at will. But we can't, right? And so that kind of defeats the purpose of what we think meditation is. So instead of going into meditation and thinking that we shouldn't be thinking, go into meditation knowing that thinking is okay, but know that you're thinking. And so when you're sitting and you're concentrating on your object in meditation, which is typically the breath, right? If a distraction arose, you hear the door open or the AC go on and off, or maybe you're just feeling pain or discomfort in the body, right? You simply just shift your awareness to whatever that is, make the mental notation, right? Just label it a one-word label, door or sound or pain or hunger, whatever it is, right? One word, that's it. Make that acknowledgement of it, and like I said, it'll just naturally disappear. And you go back to your object of meditation. So it's just a continuous awareness of these distractions and coming back. It's going, coming, right? And today you may have 1,000 distractions. Tomorrow you'll have 999 distractions. The day after that you'll have 998 distractions, right? So it's not something that's going to shift right away, right? It's nothing that's going to be perfected right away. It's something that with time will be perfected. With time will get better. And so even though we're taking away one little distraction moment at a time, eventually it'll catch up, right? And eventually you'll go from 1,000 thoughts a day to just 1 or 2, just still, or 10 or 50, right? But still, it's still an improvement, right? And so don't be discouraged by the number of distractions that may arise, right? As long as you've caught that distraction, you've completely aced your meditation, right? You've done exactly what you're supposed to be doing in meditation, right? Which is being aware of those distractions, knowing that a distraction has arose, being able to catch it in time, whether it takes you a few seconds, a few minutes. Maybe it took you your entire session, right, until someone rang the bell or your alarm went off to realize that you're entertaining a distraction. It doesn't matter how long it takes you, as long as you've caught it. That's the goal. So let it take 10 minutes for you to figure it out. Let it take 30 minutes. It may take you 30 minutes today. It'll take you 29 minutes tomorrow, 28 minutes the day after that. Right? It doesn't matter how long it takes you to become aware of a wandering thought, as long as you become aware of it. That's the point. So just know that as long as you keep up with your meditation practice, as long as you are truly putting that effort into it, right, your meditation will develop. It will get better. It will strengthen. And the more you practice and the more it starts to strengthen and you add power to those factors, those 5 factors into your meditation, then you'll start to notice more and more how the hindrances become less frequent. They start to weaken, right? They don't start to really take over your meditation as much. They don't really overpower your focus or your concentration as much anymore. And you'll see the hindrances, power levels decrease while the 5 factors increase. And once those 5 factors increase and get strong enough, then you've entered jhana, the first jhana stage. And at this stage, you still have thinking, right? Thinking still happens, and the 5 factors are still there, but the thinking is lessened. Because in jhana, of the 8 factors, thinking is only in the first stage of jhana. After you've perfected and mastered the first level of jhana, there's typically no thinking after that, right? There's still awareness, there's still consciousness, but there's no the actual thinking process happening, right? You're not thinking about dinner or lunch or what to do tomorrow or you know, who's at the door. There's no more, none of that is there anymore. And one of the things I've mentioned before is there's lots of signs that will arise within you when you're in access concentration, right? Because when you're in access concentration, you still get distractions, you still think, but your object of meditation is strong enough where those distractions or that thinking can never, I shouldn't say never, don't as often take over your object of meditation, right? So your object of meditation is always in the foreground, and it's strong enough that nothing can kind of push it out of the way, right? So they become just kind of in the background and kind of wispy, right? These distractions aren't strong enough. When they are, if it is strong enough, all right, that means one of the hindrances is still pretty powerful, right? And then it takes over. But still, as long as you're aware and you're mindful and you've noticed that distraction, then right away you kick it right out of sight again, right? Again, this is time, essentially, right? So if a distraction takes over, how much time does it take you before that awareness of it comes in, right? A few seconds, a few minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 3 hours? What are you doing at this point? Watching a movie? Right? And so, but that's one way of kind of gauging your meditative level at that point, right? Is how many distractions arise, and 2, how long do those distractions stay there, right? The third clue is that you're in access concentration, or at least getting there, is the lack of your senses. And so, like I said, in the first jhana stage where there's no thinking, but prior to that, when you're in access concentration, or you getting to that point, you start to lose the sensation. The very first sensation that is lost is the physical sensation, your physical sensations. And so if you're sitting, for instance, if you're concentrated enough, your breath starts to what's the word I'm looking for? It starts to become very shallow, right? Very light, to the point that it may even feel like you're not even breathing at all, right? Because it's so subtle. That's the word I was looking for. Subtle. It's very subtle, right? And you're breathing very slowly and shallow, and it's shallow. It seems like you're not even breathing at all. And you've probably have gone to this point several times not really knowing it, because then mind starts to freak out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not breathing. And then you start to take in a deep breath, or you start to have this big sigh, right? And so when you get to a point, if you're able to notice that shallowness of the breath and that subtlety of the breath, don't freak out, okay? Don't say, oh my God, I'm not breathing, I need to take this deep breath. Your body knows what to do, right? It's not gonna stop breathing all of a sudden, right? Even though you may feel like you're not breathing, right? But that's not enough of an excuse to freak out and take a deep breath, or take a big sigh. Because that means you're already really concentrated. And if you take that deep breath or that big sigh, For most people, it'll actually disconnect that concentration, that deep concentration that you have. So instead of freaking out and wanting to take that deep breath, just make that mental notation of subtle breath or shallow breath, right? Just literally label it like you would label anything else, and just continue, right? The body isn't going to stop breathing all of a sudden. And then from there, another sign, like I said, is the absence of sensations, right? And so we always hear, or you may have heard stories of, how meditation masters or Zen masters are able to levitate or float or whatever. This isn't that's not what they mean by levitation or by floating. It just means that when you're concentrated enough and you get to that, close enough to that absorption, because the senses start to lessen and start to weaken and start to kind of disappear, it feels like you're levitating, right? Because you've lost sensation, the senses of that physical pressure of sitting, or the pressure of the feeling of, legs being crossed, or your hands are in your lap. So the whole sensation of the body starts to kind of lessen and disappear. So it feels like you're floating, or feels like you're levitating, right? So that's another kind of big sign that you're in a deep enough meditative state. And from there, it just gets stronger and stronger and stronger, right? You go through these different factors. You go through piti, right? Joy. You go through sukha, happiness, and you get to one pointed concentration. And then as you get to one pointed concentration, once you get to access concentration, and you develop the practice even more, and those factors become even stronger and stronger, and you enter the jhanas. For the first 4 jhanas, right? At the first jhana, all those factors are still there, right? The 5 factors are still present. And as you perfect and master the first jhana, right, those factors start to disappear, right? So the higher the stage of meditation that you're in, the lesser the signs of meditation. The less of these factors arise, which I won't get into. It's a whole thing. So I won't worry about jhanas. I won't go into the jhanas themselves, since they are not necessary for your practice currently. But getting into that deep concentration, that access concentration, again, is my goal for everyone when I'm teaching meditation, because that is very much doable for you. It is not doable for most people to achieve jhana, mostly because it takes time that most people don't have. The 2 official meditation teachers I've ever had, nowadays, any meditation teacher that will teach you the jhana will almost insist that the very minimum amount of time that you need to sit for meditation is 3 hours, at minimum. Most people don't have 3 hours at a time, at least, right? And so it's not practical for most of us. But to achieve access concentration, upakara samadhi is very much doable. And hopefully, during our meditation retreat next weekend, some of you may be joyful in at that stage. Hopefully. But other than the actual jhana stages, that is it for right concentration, the 8th and final factor of the Eightfold Path. Okay, I'm going to stop there. So that covers the 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, which is the 4th Noble Truth. Those are the two foundational teachings in Buddhism. Maybe, I don't know if I'll start next week or the week after, but I will start on the third most foundational teaching in Buddhism, which is the 12 links of dependent origination. So, Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, and the 12 links of dependent origination, these are the guts of Buddhism, pretty much. You want to become enlightened, you become enlightened through one of these three teachings, hopefully. So, 12 links is a very big topic. I think I've only covered it once ever in since my tenure as a monk. I think it's such a. I mean, it technically is an advanced teaching, but it's also a necessary teaching. So I'm going to try to not dumb it down, but try to make it more applicable, accessible. So we're looking for accessible. As some of you know, that my teaching style is very deep and analytical and not always accessible. So I'm going to try to make the 12 links as accessible as possible. So we'll see how that goes, which is why I'm going to try to give myself some time to prepare and probably rewrite my notes to make it easier. But that's that. Any questions, concerns, emotional outbursts on right concentration? Mm-hmm.
At first I thought there were two kinds, and it's not like you said stages. So is it a type or a stage? Like you can do either one. It sounds like maybe
Oh, it's a type. Yeah, so you do either one. Yeah. There are, yeah, but to your point, there are two kinds of meditation, right? There's concentration and contemplation, right? But within concentration, you have two kind of sub types, which is selective and active. Yes.
More difficult, I guess. I guess as long as you stay aware and active, that's how you get to that one point. As long as you're aware and you're thinking about
Object.
Then that's when you're still in meditation zone.
Right. Active is something, active concentration or active meditation is
it seems like you might have to do that if you're in concentration meditation.
yes and no, because the active part of the active concentration piece is what's the word I'm looking for? It's not exactly like it's not a method we want to actually do because it doesn't exactly help with mastering concentration, right? What it's doing is helping you master awareness. And so meaning it helps you pay attention to your surroundings more, right? So you pay attention a little bit more to little subtle sounds that you hear, right? The little squeaky of the building shifting or the AC or maybe the wind blowing through the trees outside, right? So it's really helping you be actively aware of more around you. Yes.
So you're saying this is more about your thoughts shifting and all this is specifically external.
External and internal, both. Yeah. Because with active, like I said, it's shifting your attention to whatever that object is for the entire duration of that object, right? So however long the sound goes on for, you pay attention to it, right? So for instance, in active, if you're sitting meditating and you hear the sound of the bell, right? Instead of just saying bell and going back to your object of meditation, instead you're sitting and paying attention to the bell for its entire ringing period. And then you go back to your breath, right? And so it's a longer period of it's a long period of labeling versus just label and going back. Right? And so again, if you're doing selective meditation, selective concentration, your selectiveness is your breath, right? For this example. So whether you're counting, let's say you're just counting your breath, right? 1, 1, 2, 2, whatever. And then you hear a sound of the bell randomly, right? And so you're counting 1, 1, 2, 2, and the bell rings. And you're like, you shift your attention, bell, and then you go back and reset your breath. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. For active, 1, 1, 2, 2, bell, 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 right? You're literally hearing it for the entire duration. And once it stops, go back to your breathing. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. My mind sometimes I feel like it goes into this active bit, so I was wondering.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, like once the first few minutes of sitting in meditation, the mind is typically in that active stage, right? Because you're still trying to settle the mind and the body, and you're bringing your awareness back to the breath, and you're paying attention to things. But as you settle, become more sustained in your meditation, then it usually just naturally shifts to selective because you're sitting hopefully for a specific reason, right? And that shift happens there naturally. But otherwise, think of if you're doing walking meditation, for instance, walking meditation is almost always active concentration, right? Because when you're doing walking meditation, yeah, your main objective is, for the most part, traditionally, the sensation of the feet, right? That's your object of meditation. But other things can happen, right? Maybe something passes by your view, vision, passes by you, right? And you view in the kind of corner of your eye, or something else happens, or you have to step over some sticks or rocks or whatever it may be, right? But we're actively paying attention to more things than just the walking, right? So an alternate view of selective and active is actually sitting meditation and walking meditation. Is one way you can also, as an alternative view to those two types. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the best example I have for this can be include like driving, like when you're driving, driving object of meditation, for example. And all these distractions are basically like especially when somebody's some teenagers, they're trying to learn right, they distract their
Right.
And so they have to contemplate like what should be your driving, what are the distractions and all that. So the driving itself is not the concentration. Yeah, it is concentration.
Right, exactly.
And you have to go back and contemplate what you did. Now, like what stage, how should we drive? The teachers are teaching them like all these issues they are having. And when as we grow up, we like to drive smoothly because, like you say, the time frame of the distraction from 30 minutes to 29 minutes to 48 has gone down, so we're not distracted too much. So meditation, object meditation, the driving, what meditation is doing something, focus on whatever you're doing, whether it's driving, whether it's eat, or whatever task you're doing, and you're fully concentrated, that's meditation. That's simple as it is. All the distractions you're trying to understand and aware of, like don't get distracted on those things. Focus whatever you're doing, the main thing. If you are drinking tea, that should be all you're doing, not thinking about like spilling tea all over us. And that's what the meditation is. And I think that's where the concentration comes in.
Right.
Well, I want to ask you that the asana and like a lot of judgments several years ago for the fact I remember.
Yeah, the driving is a really good example because driving is your main object of meditation, right? So that's selective meditation. But then let's say you have to switch lanes, right? And so that's different than just driving completely straightforward, right? And so the shifting of lanes is active, right? Because you're shifting your concentration from just going forward to having to shift lanes, right? Or if someone cuts you off, right? That's a distraction from moving forward or stopping at a stoplight. Anything other than driving completely straightforward, right, is a shift in that meditation. So that's a good way to explain active. Right.
But put it in so sometimes when you're so silent, the problem kind of resolves itself. Perhaps that's the active bit. And then I'm trying to figure out in what terms does active come up in your perhaps that could be an example of a switch. That's okay because you were aware and okay, I'm not resolving that issue, back to my meditation.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because active is just an extension really to your typical meditation, right? Because like I said, you can either, when the bell rings, you can either just make the quick mental notation of bell, or you can sit with it for the entire ring. It's just a form, right? It's not something that we necessarily sit and make the decision of doing. Like it's not like the concentration or contemplation methods of meditation. It's just this may happen. You may have an active mind, or you may have a selective mind, right? It's just whatever happens, right? However, intentionally sitting for an active concentration kind of piece is still doable, right? It seems like it's not doable because things don't last long. Like if you hear a door, it's seconds or milliseconds, right? And so it's difficult to really be able to sit for the entire duration of something because not everything is prolonged sound or smell or taste or whatever, right? I'm trying to think of something else that may have maybe wind, right? Wind can last for seconds.
Most of the time it's quiet, but there is sometimes constant sound, so I get it.
Yeah.
I can focus on
right. Right. As long as you're not like sitting and entertaining that distraction or whatever you're hearing, but exactly. Exactly. You got it.
Yeah, it's like engaging in the heart. If we are focusing on something, thing or whatever we're concentrating, and then the distraction, your mind is distracted or like fall away with, and then you start contemplating in a good way, in a positive way. Oh, this is kind of distraction on what I'm doing right now, important. So we go back and focus on that thing. But let's say other way around, that something is really important. Doing this is useful, and like it might be something useful. Some people are using it's like a steam, and then you just see watching the kettle like, hey, let's steam, and it's a distraction for everybody. But okay, where is this power? It's energy, and then it started imagining of steam. So I was watching that thing. So it might be useful, like engaging. Well, I think it's a positive way, not nasty, not like taking that as a negative thing, like, oh, why this issue and why this, like I'm making up a story and making a mind so like instead of focusing on what you were doing and like you quit doing that important thing and then we started cursing that thing from thinking immediately and like so we completely forgot while we were meditating or concentrating and then we started engaging in that thing absolute nothing and kind of wasting more time and more energy doing and thinking something. But like I said, that thing is so charming and so important to the art, to the invention, to the anything. And then it seems like this is not that important. Then we can go to the other one and think it's not focusing on that. The steam being an example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he said. Or just don't get distracted at all.
I think it's like a right thinking. It's eightfold path, right thinking, right view. Not the right view that will say, okay, stop. So if we keep in mind the total of the eightfold path, that's the right view, right thinking. Oh yeah, this is.
Mm-hmm.
So what is vipassana? I forgot what that is.
Vipassana is contemplation or insight meditation. Any other questions? Awesome. All right. Well, please join me in invoking Buddha's name 3 times. We'll transfer the merit and go to chanting. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Any positive karmic action we've accumulated here today, we wish to transfer the merit to all sentient beings and wish them full enlightenment. Please go to page 161. As a reminder, we are chanting the Amitabha Sutra for a dear friend who has passed recently, Liam Bryan. Namo Amitabha Buddha. May this wondrous cloud of incense permeate the realms of the 10 directions, offering to all the Buddhas, the revered Dharma, and all Bodhisattvas, the infinite assembly of Shravakas, and all the holy and wise ones, from the radiant platform of enlightenment, in accordance with the true nature, perform the Buddha's work, pervasively imbue all sentient beings, causing them to generate the Bodhi mind, to be free from all delusive karma, and to attain the supreme enlightenment. At this time, we disciples diligently recite the sutras and mantras, praise the great assemblies, and dedicate this merit. We pray to the everlasting 3 jewels in the 10 directions, to our original teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha, and to the guiding teacher, Amitabha Buddha. May they compassionately receive and guide the spirit of Leon Bryant. With the Dharma named Quang, help them to extinguish afflictions, eliminate karmic obstacles, and quickly abandon the path of delusion, and be reborn in the pure land of ultimate bliss. We respectfully request the compassionate Buddhas to shine their light and guide the spirit to be reborn in the land of ultimate bliss. Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha. Body, speech, and mind in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and transcend all anxiety and sorrow. Listen, listen, this wonderful sound brings me back to my true home. In gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space and time. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting our careful efforts, our wholehearted mindfulness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. The incense in the censer now is burning, all the Dharma realm in every place, auspicious clouds appearing, our sincere intention thus fulfilling. As all Buddhas now show their perfect body, home eschew the incense cloud canopy, Bodhisattva and gray Bodhisattvas. Come eschew the eternally abiding Buddhas, the supreme Dharma and sagely sangha throughout the Dharma realm and the realm of empty space and 3 periods of time. Home eschew the Shakyamuni Buddha Maitreya honored future Buddha Manjushri great wisdom Bodhisattva universal great conduct Bodhisattva all Dharma guarding Deva Bodhisattvas and the glorious mountain assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Om Echu Amitabha Buddha in the land of ultimate bliss Avalokiteshvara great compassion Bodhisattva great strength Bodhisattva Earth sword grave vow Bodhisattva and the assembly of great pure sea-lying Bodhisattvas. Om Sori Sori Maha Sori So Sori Swaha Om Sori Sori Maha Sori So Sori Swaha Om Sori Sori Maha Sori So Sori Swaha. Namo great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo Ratnatrayaya Namo Avalokiteshvaraya Bodhisattvaya Mahasattvaya Mahakarunikaya Om Sarvaravaye Sudanadasya Namoskitvahi Mamarya Avalokiteshva Ramdava Namo Narakindehi Mahavaswami Sarvahatu Shubham Ajiyam Sarvasat Namo Vasava Namo Vakama Vitato Taryata Om Avalokito Gadikati Hiri Mahabodhisat Sarva Sarva Madhamana Mahi Mahiridayam Kuro Kuro Karmam Doro Doro Vijati Mahavijati Darada Tirinishvaraya Chala Chala Mama Vimada Muktilehiya Hishina Shina Hasham Prashari Visha Vishvam Prashai Holo Holo Mara Holo Holo Hri Sara Sara Siri Siri Soro Soro Bodhiya Bodhiya Bodhaya Bodhaya Maitreya Nara Kendi Vishmina Swaha Narakindivagalaya Swaha Mavadi Sankaraya Swaha Namo Ratnashrayaya Namo Aryavaro Shvaraya Swaha Om Siddhyanto Mantra Padaya Swaha. The Dharma body is bringing morning light in concentration. My heart is at peace. A half smile is born on my lips. This is a new day, and I vow to go through it in mindfulness. The sun of wisdom has risen, shining in every direction. Noble Sangha, diligently bring your mind into meditation. Namo Shakyamunaya Buddhaya. Namo Shakyamunaya Buddhaya. Namo Shakyamunaya Buddhaya. Of all my past created negative karma, all by beginning greed, anger, and delusion from my body, speech, and mind. Now before the Buddha I repent. Namo Samanta Bhadra Bodhisattva. Namo Samanta Bhadra Bodhisattva. Namo Samanta Bhadra Bodhisattva. Unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of eons. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the vast assembly of the lotus pool. Namo Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the vast assembly of the lotus pool. Namo Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the vast assembly of the lotus pool. The Buddha pronounces a sutra of Amitabha Buddha. At this I have heard how one time the Buddha dwelt Ashtavasi in the Jeta Grove in the garden of the benefactor of orphans and the solitaire, together with a gathering of great bhikshus, 1,250 in all, great Tathats whom the assembly knew and recognized. Elder Shariputra, Mahamodgadayana, Mahakashyapa, Mahakatyana, Mahakashutila, Divata, Shudipantaka, Nanda, Ananda, Rahula, Gavampat, Vindula, Bharadvaja, Karudayan, Mahakafina, Vakula, Aniruddha, and others such as these, all great disciples who get with all the Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Dharma Prince, Manjushri, Ajita Bodhisattva, Gandhahasan Bodhisattva, Nityogupta Bodhisattva. Just these all great Bodhisattvas, and together with Shakra, chief among gods, and the numberless great multitudes from all the heavens. At the time the Buddha told the elder Shariputra, passing from here through hundreds of thousands of millions of Buddha lands to the west, there is a world called Ultimate. In this land a Buddha called Amitabha right now teaches this land called ultimate. All living beings of this land endure none of the sufferings, but enjoy every bliss. Therefore it is called ultimate bliss. Moreover, Shadiput, ultimate bliss is everywhere, surrounded by 7 tiers of railing, 7 layers of netting, and 7 rows of trees, all formed from the 4 treasures, and for this reason named ultimate. Moreover, Shariputra, this land of ultimate bliss, has pools of the 7 jewels filled with the waters of a meritorious virtues. The bottom of each pool is pure, spread over with golden sand. On the 4 sides are stairs of gold, silver, lapis, azul, and crystal. Above are raised pavilions adorned with gold, silver, lapis, azul, crystal, mother of pearl, red pearls, and carnelian. And the pools are lotuses as large as carriage wheels, green colored of green light, yellow colored of yellow light, red colored of red light, white colored of white light, subtly, wonderfully fragrant and pure. Shadi station of the land of ultimate bliss is thus meritoriously adorned. Moreover, Shariputra, in that Buddha land there is always heavenly music, and the ground is yellow gold in the 6 periods of the day, and a heavenly rain of mandara flowers falls in throughout the clear morning. Each living being of that land with sacks full of the myriads of wonderful flowers makes offerings to the hundreds of thousands of millions of Buddhas of the other directions. At mealtime they return to their home, and having eaten they stroll around Shariputra, the land of ultimate bliss is thus meritoriously adorned. Moreover, Shariputra, in this land there are always rare and wonderful varied colored birds, white cranes, peacocks, parrots, and egrets, calavinkas, and 2-headed. In the 6 periods of the day and night the flocks of birds sing forth harmonious and elegant sounds. Their clear and joyful proclaim the 5 roots, the 5 powers, the 7 bodhi shares, the 8 sagely way shares, and dharma such as these. When living beings of this land hear these, they are all together mindful of the Buddha, mindful of the Dharma, and mindful of the Sangha. Shadiput, do not say that these birds are born as retribution for their karmic offenses. For what reason in this Buddha there are no 3 evil ways of rebirth? Shariputra, in this Buddha land not even the names of the 3 evil ways exist. How much lesser actuality, desiring that the Dharma sound be widely proclaimed. Amitabha Buddha by transformation to the birth. Shariputra, in that Buddha land blows a rows of jewel trees and jewel nets give forth subtle and wonderful sounds like 100,000 kinds of music. Time all those who hear these sounds naturally bring forth in their hearts mindfulness of the Buddha, mindfulness of the Dharma, and mindfulness of the Sangha. Shariputra, the realization of the land of ultimate bliss is thus meritoriously adorned. Shariputra, what do you think? Why is this Buddha called Amitabha? Shariputra, the brilliance of the Buddha's light is measureless, illumining the lands of the 10 directions everywhere without obstruction. For this reason he is called Amitabha. Moreover, Shariputra, the life of the Buddha and that of his people extends for measureless, limitless, asamkaya kalpas. For this reason he is called Amitabha. And Shariputra, since Amitabha realized Buddhahood, and kalpas have passed. Moreover, here Shadiput. That Buddha has measureless, limitless sound hearer. Disciples, arhats are number incalculable. Thus also is the assembly of Bodhisattva Shadiputra. Of the land of ultimate bliss is thus meritoriously adorned. Moreover, Shadiput, those living beings born in the land of the ultimate bliss are all in the stage of non-regression. Among them are many who in this very life will dwell in Buddhahood. Their number is extremely many. It is incalculable and only and measureless, limitless. Asamkaya kalpas could it be spoken. Shadiputra, those living beings who here should vow, I wish to be born in thou. And why those who thus attain are all superior and good people, all gathered together in one place. One cannot have few good roots, blessings, virtues, and casual connections to attain birth in that land. Shadiput, if there is a good man or a good woman who hears spoken Amitabha and holds any whether for 1 day, 2 days, 3, 4, 5 days, 6 days, as long as 7 days, with one heart unconfused, when this person approaches the end of life, before him will appear Amitabha and all the assembly of holy ones. When the end comes, his heart is with version in Amitabha's land of ultimate bliss. He will attain rebirth. Shadiputra, because I see this benefit, I speak these words. If living beings hear this spoken, they should make the vow. That land Shadiputra has I now praised the inconceivable benefit from the merit and virtue of Amitabha. Thus in the east are also Akshobhya Buddha, Sumeru appearance Buddha, grace Sumeru Buddha, Sumeru light Buddha, wonderful sound. All Buddhas such as these numberless as Genji stands in his own land. Each brings forth the appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering the 3,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, in reverence the inconceivable merit and virtue of this sutra of the mindful one, of whom all Buddhas are protective. Shadiputra, world, our sun, moon, lamp Buddha, well-known light Buddha, great blazing shoulders Buddha, Sumeru lamp Buddha, measureless figure Buddha. All Buddhas such as these numberless as Genji stands in his own land. Each brings forth appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering the 3,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, and hold in reverence the inconceivable merit and virtue of this sutra. All Buddhas are protective. Shadiputra, in the Western world are measureless light Buddha, measureless appearance Buddha, measureless curtain Buddha, great light Buddha, great brightness Buddha, jeweled appearance Buddha, pure light Buddha. All Buddhas such as these numberless. Genji stands in his own land. Each brings forth the appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering 1,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, and hold in reverence the inconceivable merit and virtue of this sutra of the mindful one, of whom all Buddhas are protected. Shadiputra, in the northern world are blazing shoulders Buddha, most victorious sound Buddha, hard to injure Buddha, sun-birth Buddha, and brightness Buddha. Such as these numberless as Genji stands in his own land. Each brings forth the appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering the 3,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, hold in reverence the inconceivable merit and virtue of this sutra of the mindful one, of whom all Buddhas are protective. Shadiputra, in the world below are lying Buddha, well-known Buddha, vast and long tongue everywhere, covering the 3,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, and hold in reverence the inconceivable merit and virtue of this sutra of the mindful one, of whom all Buddhas are protective. Shadi Buddha in the world above, the pure sound Buddha, king of stars Buddha, superior fragrance Buddha, fragrant light Buddha, great blazing shoulders Buddha, varied color jewels and flower adornment body Buddha, Salatri king Buddha, jewel flower virtue Buddha, vision of all Buddha, such as Mount Sumeru Buddha, all Buddhas such as these numberless as Ganges stands in his own land. Each brings forth the appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering the 3,000 great thousand, speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, and hold in reverence the inconceivable merit and virtue of this sutra, whom all Buddhas are protective. Shadiputra, what do you think? Why is it called Sutra of the Mindful One, of whom all Buddhas are protective? Shadiputra, if a good man or good woman hears this sutra and holds to it, and hears the names of all these Buddhas as good man or good, the Mindful One, of whom all Buddhas are protective, and will irreversibly attain to Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore, Shadiput, all of you should believe and accept my words and those which all Buddhas speak. Shadiputra, if there are people who have already made the vow, who now make the, or who are about to make the vow, I desire to be born in Amitabhas, and these people, whether born in the past, now being born, or to be born in the future, all will irreversibly attain to Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore, Shadiput, all good men and good women, if they are among those who have faith, should make the vow, I will be born in that land. Shadiputra, just as I now praise the inconceivable of all Buddhas, all those Buddhas equally praise my inconceivable merit and virtue, saying these words. Shakyamuni Buddha can complete extremely rare and difficult deeds in the Sahalan, in the evil time of the 5 impurity, in the midst of the Kalpa impurity, the view impurity, the affliction impurity, the living beings impurity, and the life impurity. He can attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, and for the sake of living beings speak this Dharma, which in the whole world is hard to believe. Shadiputra, you should know that I, in the evil time of the 5 impurities, practice these difficult deeds, attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, and for all the world speak this Dharma, difficult to believe, extremely difficult. After the Buddha spoke this sutra, Shadiputra, all the gods, men, and asuras, and others from all the worlds, hearing what the Buddha has said, joyously welcomed, faithfully accepted, bowed, and withdrew. At the time the Buddha, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, proclaimed the Sukhavati Vyuhadarani Namo Amitabhaya Tathagataya Taryata Amrita Bhavi Amrita Siddham Bhavi Amrit Vikrante Amrita Vikranta Gamini Gagana Kirta Kare Swaha Namo Amitabhaya Yataya Taryata Amrita Bhavi Amrita Siddham Bhavi Amrita Vikrante Amrita Vikranta Gamini Gagana Kirta Kare Swaha Namo Amitabhaya Tathagataya Taryata Amrita Bhavi Amrita Siddham Bhavi Amrita Vikrante Amrita Vikranta Gamini Gagana Kirta Kare Swaha. May all the 4 kinds of beings reach the jeweled land, and the beings of all 3 realms be born from lotus. May all the myriad ghosts attain the threefold worthiness, and the countless sentient ones ascend the caused by is the color of gold. The splendor of his hallmarks has no peer. The light of his brow shines 100 worlds wide. As the seas are his eyes, pure and clear, shining in his brilliance by transformation. Are countless bodhisattvas and infinite Buddhas. His 48 vows will be our liberation. In 9 lotus stages we reach the farthest shore. Namo Amitabha, Buddha of infinite light and life in the land of ultimate bliss. Namo Amitabha Buddha, 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 Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Namo Great Strength Bodhisattva, Namo Great Strength Bodhisattva, Namo Great Strength Bodhisattva, Namo Shiti-garbha Bodhisattva, Namo Shiti-garbha Bodhisattva, Namo Shiti-garbha Bodhisattva, Namo Great Pure Sea like Bodhisattvas, Namo Great Pure Sea like O great pure sea like Bodhisattvas, heart of the Prajnaparamita, the Bodhisattva Avalokita, while moving in the deep course of Prajnaparamita, shed light on the 5 skandhas and found them equally empty. After this penetration, became ill-beingless, and Shariputra, form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Form is not other than emptiness. Emptiness is not other than form. The same is true with feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. Thus in Shariputra, dharmas are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither defiled nor immaculate, neither increasing. Therefore in emptiness there is neither form nor feelings, no perceptions nor mental formations nor consciousness, no eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object, no realms of elements, no interdependent origins, and no extinction of them, no ill-being, no cause of ill-being, no end of ill-being, and no path, no understanding, no attainment, because there is no one. The Bodhisattvas grounded in Prajnaparamita find no obstacles for their minds. Having no obstacles, they overcome fear, liberating themselves forever from illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future arrive at Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore, one should know that is the highest mantra, the unequaled mantra, the destroyer of ill-being, the incorruptible truth, the mantra of Prajnaparamita should therefore be proclaimed. Gate gate para gate para sam gate bodhiswa. Gate para sam gate bodhiswaha. Gate para sam gate bodhiswaha. Namo sarva tathagata varokiteyam sambara sambara hom. Namo sarva tathagata varokiteyam sambara sambara hom. Namo sarva tathagata varokiteyam sambara sambara hom. Namo sorupaya tathagata yata yata hom. Soro soro pra soro swaha. Namo sorupaya tathagata hom. Soro soro pra soro swaha. Namo sorupaya tathagata yata yata hom. Soro soro pra soro swaha. Om gagana sambhava vajra hom. Om gagana sambhava vajra hom. Om gagana sambhava vajra hom. May these meritorious virtues adorn the Buddha's pure land, repaying for kindness acts of kindness above and aiding those suffering in the paths below. May those who see and hear of this all bring forth the resolve for Bodhi, and when this retribution body is over, be born together in the land of ultimate bliss. Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and of love. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. Dwelling in the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty in the world. Dwelling in the refuge of Dharma, I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation. Dwelling in the refuge of Sangha, shining light thus supports me, keeping my practice free of obstruction. Taking refuge in the Buddha, in myself I aspire to help all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the mind of love. Taking refuge in the Dharma, in myself I aspire to help all people fully master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation. Taking refuge in the Sangha, in myself I aspire to help all people build fourfold communities to embrace all beings and support their transformation. Reciting the sutras, practicing the way of awareness, gives rise to benefits without limits. We vow to share fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to parents, teachers, friends, and numerous beings, to give guidance